Hey guys, in this video, I'm trying to build something new. So basically, what I was trying to do is see. Generally, we all require some kind of storage. Like let's say, take my case, right? Whenever I shoot some kind of videos for the YouTube, and when I done uploading it to the YouTube, then I generally don't keep any backups in my local system. But that's not right, right? So we typically need some kind of storage system where we can store our, let's say, our videos or photos or any some kind of large files, so that we can look at it whenever it is required, right? So basically, for what these cases, what we use is something like Google Drive or third party solutions like sorry, when I'm say third party solutions other than Google, like we use something like pCloud, or we use Dropbox, or any kind of storage solution. But uh, there are few limitations that I observed. That one thing is they provide very limited data, and second thing is they come with some kind of cost, right? So what if we build a custom storage solution for ourselves, so that we can push all our large files or anything, so that we can access it whenever we require, right? So it's not that we are no doing a frequent access to that. So some kind of archival storage. So in that case, this video we are trying to achieve that. So we are going to use S3 storage. So for anyone who doesn't know what S3 is, S3 is Amazon's storage service. So it's a database, and it works based on the principles of objects, right? So everything that you store are some kind of objects, and there are something called as buckets. So buckets you can link relate with a table. You can call it as a table. So I can create a bucket, and I can put any kind of object in that. So object can be anything. So any kind of file can be put into the object. And few good things why we have to choose S3 is it is pretty cheap. And even let's see the cost as well. So S3 prices, honestly, it costs pennies, right? So let's say, uh, let me look into it. S3, let's go S3 storage prices, something like 50 terabytes or something. I remember it cost something like $0.2 for a gigabyte or something like that. So what I was trying to say is it's pretty cheap. Yeah, this is thing. So for the first 50 terabyte, we are simply paying 0.023 dollars per GB, and we only pay for what we use, right? So instead of other services like Google, where we pay a flat rate of, let's say, $30 a year or something like that. So here we only pay for what we use, and as the database increases, the cost, honestly, it decreases, right? So it's best storage and best cheap storage. Apart from that, it is pretty scalable, and it is highly available. And there is something called as 99 point some 69s. So Amazon says that their storage is 99.9999 times available all the time. So it's safe to say that our data is not going anywhere, and it is obviously it is secure and all these things. And we have many features, and if I want, I can make an dedicated video regarding S3. So we are going to take power no leverage of these things, and we are going to try and make a some kind of a web interface. We are not going to go much deep into that. We are not going to build a complete a startup kind of a thing, but we'll just try to build a small POC, right? So let's start by doing that. So if you're new to AWS, don't worry, I will try and understand you the little things. But if you're trying to know understand AWS, I will there is some playlist in my channel, and I'm also planning to build a series regarding AWS services and all. So yeah, so keep watching for that. So let's try and build a solution. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an S3 bucket, so which I'm going to use as my personal storage solution, right? And I prefer it way higher than Google Drive, right? So Google Drive is, honestly, Google Drive looks like a mess. I'm sure so many people use that, but Google Drive doesn't look perfect for me. And either downloading the files or uploading the files, it completely looks like a mess. So let's try and build a solution. So I'm here in my S3. So you can simply log into your account, AWS account, and you can simply search for S3 services here. So let me go back to. So this is how the homepage looks like, and you can simply search for S3, or you can find it somewhere here. So if you go to all services, then you can find S3 under storage, right? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new bucket. So when I say bucket, it's simply a storage thing. You can relate it with a table. So I'm going to say Prakash, like self storage. I'm just giving you some random name, right? And I'm choosing the Mumbai region because so obviously I'm closer to the Mumbai region. So uh, this will give me like good response times and all. So you can basically keep everything as default. So if you uncheck this, then these uh, the data that you are storing in this bucket can be open to all the public, right? So people generally use this when you're trying to like provide some kind of files that can be downloaded through all to all its users. So but currently we need it to be blocked so that only I can use it. And for the moment I'm also blocking this bucket versioning. Bucket versioning is simply like a it's like a version controlling system, so you can have multiple versions of a single object, right? So that's it. And default encryption, let's keep everything as default. And I'm currently in using a free tier. So free tier is enough if you're trying to use S3. So there are some limitations like how many requests that you can do, but it's safe to say that if you're only using S3, we are always in the limits. And even if we are getting some bill, so it's going to be some kind of pennies. So this is my yeah, basically this is my object. So now what I want to do is like I want to upload some kind of a file. Let's do that. So I can simply add files from my local system. Let's say desktop sample document. So I'm uploading this sample document here. So upload. So basically the upload is succeeded. And if I go back close, you can see that in my S3 I have my bucket, and in the bucket there is this document. So that's it. That's basically it. How easy to have a storage for it. But this is not feasible, right? So if I, let's say I have like 100 files that I want to quickly push it to my storage, I need some kind of an web interface, right? So that is what we're going to do, right? So we are going to build a simple web interface for that, and using that we are going to push the data into this. So for that, let me use my good old Django here. So I'll try and fast forward this part. We'll meet you once I started the project. So yeah. So these are things that I have done for multiple times. So I will simply skip through this. So if you want, you can watch previous videos. So this is what I'm going to do. So basically these are our URLs, right? So I'm going to build two URLs. So I'm going to say path, and one thing is empty path. And whenever somebody comes to empty path, I'm going to show him a view called as views.home view. Or I can simply say, yeah, views at home. Home here is going to upload his files. And there is something called as get files. So there is one thing called as get files. And again I'm going to show something like views.get files. So obviously we don't have any views as of now, so let's simply create views, new file, views.py. So let's create the news. So I'm going to create a home view. It's going to take a request, and let's return HTTP response for now. So for that I have to import from Django import HTTP from Django dot shortcuts HTTP response. Yep. So I'm going to say this is home. Let me just copy this. And instead of form, I'm going to say get files. Get files. So these are two simple views. Let's try and start the project and let's see what we can do from that point. So why I have chosen for Django? So basically, since Django is a Python-based framework, so it's easier to work with Python using, there is something called as Boto 3 library in Python, so which makes it easy to interact with AWS services and all. So let's try and run this server. Views is not defined. Okay, let's import views. Now, yep, now the server is up. Let me just go to localhost. Yep, so if I go to this, I'm getting this. So if I say get files, yeah, so basically our two routes are set and it is asking me to apply migrate, so I will also do that. Okay, it has applied migrations, and let's stop the server once and run it again so that we don't have any errors. So now this is what we're going to do. So when I say I need a storage solution, what I'm thinking is, like, let's say tomorrow I record some kind of a video and I upload it to YouTube, and after that, so whatever the file that is remaining, right, so whatever the file that I get after editing, right, so the premiere file, so this premiere files can be useful in the future, because if I want to refer to previous video and all, so that I need all the footage instead of only the edited YouTube version. So in that case, I have to simply push this file into this my web interface, and it has to go into the S3, right? So this is what we're going to do. So for that, I'm going to use simple templates here. So let's create a new called as templates. I think it has to be on the outermost. Yep. So templates is in the outermost thing. So again, this is all basic stuff I have done multiple times here. So home.html. Let's copy paste. Get files.html. So home.html is simply a form. It's going to be it's going to have a form which is going to take data, and get files is simply will perform some kind of get operation on the S3 bucket, and will display all the files that are currently present in that, and we'll try to make it simply. So we'll try to focus on the functionality part for this video, not on the UI part or trying to polish the things. So we just try to build it, and I will make some follow-up videos. I'm trying to build it as a series so that we can create something which looks similar to Dropbox or something like that, and which can provide a feasible solution for storage, right? So I'm going to say, so I will call this project as GDrive project. Okay, so let me give a head home. So instead of views, let me just map these to render. just simply render these HTML files, render, and it's going to take request and template name. So what's our template name? It's going to be, oh yeah, it's home.html, home.html, and here again render request, and it's going to be get files.html. So these are our two files. Let's go back and reload this, and template does not exist. Okay, let me just pause this. So we are getting template not found error. So this is a pretty common error. So what we missed was we'll go back into settings.html and simply mention that there is some folder called as the templates which you have to look into. This is all basic stuff, so just simply skipping through it. Now if I reload, yep, so we have get files. Now let's go back to a fun part, right? So I said that there is something called as a Boto free sorry, it's a module on Python, so which is helpful to interact with services from AWS. So you can see that it's an AWS SDK, so that can be used to perform any operations or in order to interact with all these AWS services, right? So we are going to use that. So, and Boto 3 documentation is pretty nice, right? So there's not much that we have to look into, or there's not much that we have to read. So we can simply follow this documentation, and we can perform anything. Let's see. For almost everything that you can assume, there is some kind of function in the Boto that we can use. So here we are going to use something called as let's see if there is something called as put or something where I can dump object. So there is put bucket, put encryption and all. So yeah, so there is put object, and let's see what so this is the documentation. So it is going to take some arguments, and it says that it adds an object to the bucket, but for that you need a write permission to the bucket, right? So you need write permissions, and once it is added, you will get success response. So let's look into that. So these are the arguments that it requires, and yeah, not all arguments are necessary. So there are multiple optional arguments. So there are three arguments that it requires, like something like a bucket name. So on what bucket you're trying to insert it, and what's the file name, and what's the file, right? So let's look at the sample. So yeah, so this is a sample response that we can do. So I can create a Boto client for S3 using my credentials, and I can simply say put bucket, and I'm going to pass the body. So when I say body, it's simply the file, right? And I have to pass what's the bucket name that in which I want to pass the object, and the key is simply what's the name that I'm trying to give it to my object. So when I say object is nothing but file, right? So don't be confused. So objects, so in S3 we treat all the files as an object, so keep that in mind. So we're going to use this to perform this action. So before that, we need to create an IAM role. So what I mean by IAM, so IAM is nothing but identity access management. So it simply specifies who has access to the services and what are the permissions that you have. So that's it. So I will create a new user for this current use case, and after this use case I will also erase that. So if you're trying to recreate this project, so use your own credentials, right? So I'm going to add a new user, and creating IAM roles is pretty necessary thing, and we have to keep this also confidential, right? So if someone has access to your credentials, right, so they can use your AWS a lot, and you will be billed with like no $1,000 or something like that. So keep that in mind and have it safe. So what we need is a programmatic access so that uh, we can perform operations by using tools like SDK and all. So that's what we need, right? So we need programmatic access. So name I will give as Prakash, testing role, testing user, right? So programmatic access and permissions, what permissions that I want him to so in this case I will attach the existing policies. What do you mean by existing policies, right? So existing policies are nothing but they are some kind of templates or boilerplates, uh, depending on the access, right? So if I search for S3, so for S3 there are some kind of boilerplates, right? So something like S3 full access or S3 to Redshift access, or only read access, something like that. So if I add S3 full access, then you can see that he has everything. So he has all the accesses on the S3, so he can read, he can write and everything. But so ideally you should not give that to any if you are no if you are creating user for any other third person. But since I am the person that you are trying to use this, so I don't mind giving full access to myself, so I will give full access. And tags are optionally go no skip that. And so these are the things. So this is my user, and I'm accessing programmatic access, and he has permissions or to have full access to the S3, right? So I can create the user, and now I will be given some credentials, so I have to keep these credentials safe. So let me open note notepad plus plus quickly, and I will copy these here. Okay, we'll copy this into this, show, copy, right? So one thing that you have to keep in mind is you can access these roles only once, right? So you cannot access these roles multiple times. You can access only one time, right? So make sure you copy this. So nv, so I have copied the ID and I have copied the secret key, right? So now that we have these keys, so let's close this. So now I have a user, right? So using this user I can perform border 3 SDKs, right? So let's go back to this page, and let's go to HTML, and let's try to create a form so that we can update file into this system, right? So action, uh, let's do one thing. So I'm going to create a form which makes a post request, and again it is going to go to home itself. So let's go back to URL and give it as a name is equal to home, right? So whenever I submit some file, I'm redirecting him to home. Okay, home and home, right? So this is going to be my form, and so basically let's give a one h1 tag, home. Let's give a h3 to keep things simple. Upload the file here. So for the demonstration I will use basic file input. So you can do all sort of things. You can use some kind of jQueries and all, so that you can create nice animations, like you can drag and drop files from anywhere and something like that. But I'll try and keep it simple so that we can understand the concept more than working on some obsolete things. So this is going to be an input, and type is going to be file, right? And also let's do a submit pqrs, right? Let's see how the form looks to this. So yeah, this is what I have to look. Okay, value is equal to submit. Yeah, so this is going to be my file. I can upload a file from here, right? So if I upload file from here and if I do submit, then it is going to say missing CSS server token. So this was something unexpected that I missed to add. So now things should be fine, right? If I submit, okay, let's stop the server and restart it. Local host 8000. Okay, so our home is going to be home. Choose file, so I will choose a sample document. Now if I submit, then again I was redirected to home, right? So now what I have to do is so I have to filter out what kind of requests that I'm getting on this URL, right? So if request equal to post, right? So if my request is equal to post, right? So request dot method equal to post, I think. So let's look at in the if request equal to post, yeah, it is dot request dot method. So let's copy that here. If request dot method equal to post, so whenever there is a post request, right? So I'm going to simply do a HTTP response here. So return HTTP response got the file. So my file will be coming to this location. In all the other cases, I will be showing the simple form itself, right? Thanks Stack Overflow. So yeah, so now you can see that. So when I reload this, so it is saying got the file because it has a request from the previous session, right? So let's again let's go to home. Let me show you how it's done, right? So let's inspect and go to network. Now we can see there are no requests being made. So now if I choose sample document, right, and if I submit it, there is this request that has happened and it is saying got the file. So if you look into headers, so it's a post request. Okay, so these are things. So now we have this, right? So let me show you how we create these things. So let's go back how to create a client. So this is how we can create a client. We can simply import Boto, and we can simply say that Boto3 dot client, right? So but in our case this is not going to work because so this is assuming that we have already set up our local environments, right? Environments for key and access, but we are not going to do that. So we are going to give it explicitly. So I'll show you how it is done, right? So in order to create a client using our credentials explicitly, right, instead of storing environment variables, so we can do something like this. So I have access key and I have my secret key. So using these keys, I'm going to create a client for this. So let's copy this, and we can simply do that in the top. So when the view so it happens in the only one time, so one time is enough. So instead of creating client for each time whenever we are trying to get files and home files, so we can do it once in the global session, and it applies through all the functions, right? So we have to import Boto3. I'm not sure if I have it. Yeah, I have it. So this is how we have created our client. Right now again let's go back to the documentation and let's look into the put object. Sorry, put object. Yes, put object. Let's look into the sample that we did. So this is what we want. So whenever a request is this, so we want this to happen, right? So at this place we want we want to have right the access to the we want to have the access to the file that was being passed through the post object, and using the S3 client that we have created in the global context. So using that, I'm simply saying to put the objects, and whatever the response that I'm getting, so I can simply send this response here. So HTTP response, honestly I can simply return response, right? So this is how we can do, but we have to get the access to the file, right? So this is how we can do it. So in order to get the access to the file, we say something like file equals to, let's say my file equals to request dot file of, and I can say my file. So I haven't specified what name that I have to give in this, right? So let's go back to our HTML and let's give it a name. Name is equal to my file. So using this we can identify that, and also let's do this. So it's going to be a form data type of encryption multi-part, right? So we have our file, and I think we can have access to that here, right? Let's try and print my file dot name, right? So let's see what happens. So right now I'm going to simply response. So let's do that. So we are in home, and if I reload, cancel, and let's go back again into the network settings. Let's upload a file. If I submit, then this is what, so request has no attribute file, right? I think we made some mistake. I think it has to be files. If I reload, yeah, now if I reload, str has no object get. Interesting. What is that? So where did we get response is equal to get response? Oh, I think it has to be HTTP response. HTTP response of simple text. So I just wanted to know whether we're able to get name of our file. Did we get that? Yeah, so we got the name. So our file is being passed, and I think we are good to go, right? So let's also do a simple demo here. Yeah, so you can see that we have a response, right? So we are getting our file through, and we are able to pass the document, and we are able to get the response. Let's again do it one more time. So this is my form. I'm choosing on any file, and if I submit, the request is going through, and it is getting a 200 request, right, status. So the process is going well, and it is giving me the response. So that is, it is coming from this point. And if I simply see here, you can see that this is my sample doc, right? So now I can simply fill this. So that or automatically the my files will be pushed into my bucket using these credentials, right? So I have my file.name, so I'm going to use this as my key, right? So that makes sense, right? So whatever file name my user has locally, so I will use the same file on the cloud as well. And coming to the body, we want my file has to be our body, right? So basically we are trying to upload our file, so this is going to be our body. And bucket, we have to look into our So it is not that. Let's go back to our S3 console, and from that we can copy our object bucket name and we can do that. So currently I don't think we have any uh, objects. Oh, this is my old, I think it's my older bucket. Let me delete it. Not a problem, let's do that. Because self storage, okay, copy. So let me just delete this. Okay, so for the bucket name I have my bucket name. Let me save that, and I will delete all the entries that are previously present. So now all the bucket entries are deleted, right? So this is my bucket, and there are currently there are nothing here, right? So now basically what's happening is we were able to now create a workflow for here, and if everything goes well we should be able to see the request, right? uh, Let me also print a response here. I'm sure response is going to be some kind of a JSON file. Okay, so this is going to print it to the console. Let's do that. So there are no files here, so go back to our form, choose a file. Okay, now if I submit, yeah, so we got 200 success requests, and it is printing some kind of response metadata. So yeah, so this is our output. So it is success. So our file got uploaded to the S3, right? So no problem. Now if I reload, I have to see that there are files here. Yep, so our object got placed here. So this is how easy to be able to like put objects into the S3 bucket, right? So now let's say if I want, so let's say if I'm a hardcore user and I frequently push data to this, right? So I will simply no push this project as a solution, some kind of a solution, some kind of a website on a server. So whenever I'm trying to store some files, I simply push it to the S3 bucket, and that's it. So I don't have to bother about that. So this is pretty cool compared to how Google Drive works or anything, right? So based on two things, right? So based on the price that we're paying, right? So see for small files, S3 might look at overkill, right? So we can simply argue that no, a Drive is a better one, or any other cloud is a better one. So but see what I'm looking here as a work as a working condition is that a user who has like 30 gigabytes of data, right? So you won't believe that sometimes I record tutorials which are like 2 to 3 hours or long, right? So I generally don't upload them into the YouTube because I find them like they don't bring that value. So I simply scrape many projects. But I have, so if I export that from a Premiere, right? So they simply go to like 10 gigabytes as well, right? So if I'm storing some kind of a 1080p file for like 2 hours, 2 3 hours, so without any compression, with the original quality, they are tend to go sizes like tens of gigabytes, right? So for those kinds of users, so this would be a good solution and efficient solution. So keep that in mind, right? So now let's simply do a response instead of HTTP response. So I think this has to be this has to come out as some kind of an API. Dict has no attribute headers. Interesting. Internal server error. Let's choose a file, submit this. dict has no attribute error. Let's Google it. I think it has to do with how we are returning this thing. Okay, let's return it as a JSON response. So I'll return it as a JSON response. This should work. Yeah, so if I do it as a JSON response, it will work. And so I'm currently in a guest session, so my JSON viewer does not work. So this is how we know that. So whenever there is a success, then you get 200, right? So for now, let's replace that with upload successful. How do you return? Right, so let's try and upload a bigger file, right? A new file which is somewhat bigger file. So let's upload this PDF. So if I submit this, then it's going to take some little bit seconds depending on internet speed. Once it uploads it, it says upload successful. And if I reload this, yep, so you can see that our 4 megabyte file has been uploaded, and it's a simple PDF, right? So you can simply download that. You can do all kind of stuff, right? So this is how the storage works. Let's also do this, right? So we have put the objects into their positions, but we also do one thing, like in the get files, let's simply get details of all the files, right? So for that, what we have to do, so there is nothing that we can do here. So we have to go into the views, and here whenever somebody gets to this place, we have to pass some kind of context dictionary. So let me pass let's get a file name. So let's go back to the index page. So this is what generally I do, right? So, and this is what you should also do in ideal situation, right? So see, whenever you hear somebody saying that I implemented that, I did this project, so there is nothing out of order that they did. So all they did is like they followed some kind of documentation. So you also do the same thing, right? So for everything there is a documentation, and if you follow the documentation, your workflow would be like 10 folds easier, right? So now what we're looking is we are trying to get object, but see, from what I can understand is that it is retrieves one object, right? And I think we have to pass name. Wait, I'm getting call. So when I say get object, then you have to have read access. So we have full access, right? So uh, I can send a key of an object, and based on that I will get an object. So this is what I think it is. So let's look at a sample response. Sorry, sample request. I think there has to be. Yeah, so this is a sample request. So I have to pass key, and I will get all the data of that. But this is not what I was looking. So I need, like, when I make a request, I need all the files that are present. So I think there should be something like get all or something like that. Get all, get list. There has to be something like that. So yeah, so there is list objects. I think we can use that. So okay, so there is this. So I can simply call dot list underscore objects, and it will return me all the objects that are present, so in the form of a JSON, right? So let's do that. So let's copy this here. So I already have my client, right? So S3 is going to be my client, so I can simply say response is equals to S3 dot what's that again? List objects, list underscore objects, and I have to pass the bucket name. Okay. um, let's copy the request itself. Okay, so bucket, what's our bucket name? This is going to be our bucket name. Do I need the delimiter? Do I need max key? I think I can remove everything. I'm sure these are all optional arguments only. Okay, so bucket is a required argument, and let's see if okay everything else is an optional argument. I can simply call list objects on my bucket, and it will return me the response, and I can simply return it as an HTTP response. So I will return it as a JSON response. JSON response of response. Right. Okay. So if I do JSON response of a response, right? So this should again no give us a response, that is a JSON response of what are the files that are present in this. So let's go back here. Let's make get files request, and this should give us this response, right? So this is the response, and it's the metadata, and so these are the contents, right? So if you see the contents page, so I can see that there is something called as .pdf, that is file number 1, and this is also again file number 2. So what I can do is I can simply return dot contents here, response of non-text erased to save parameter as false. Okay, so what it's saying is simply say if I do safe is equal to false, then this has to solve this problem. Yeah, so this is how we can simply get all the files that are present here, right? So this is what I wanted to discuss in this first part. So obviously I will make another parts where we have a neat UI where let's say I can display it some kind in form kind list, and so that I can download it anytime, right? So it's like it has to be something like a NAS storage, right? So that's going to be our next parts for this, right? So I hope this video was helpful, and so one thing in my videos is I generally don't believe in like picture perfect tutorials, right? So see, I can prepare for like multiple times and multiple takes and create a picture perfect tutorial, but see, as a audience that you're trying to do, so you only understand the content while you're watching this. But if you are watching content where see the teacher or the person that who is making the content is also trying to know the things while he's doing, so I believe that this will take you to the longer way. So that's how my contents are. I generally keep it unscripted. So if you like this kind of content, please give a subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the part 2. And if you have any ideas of how to develop this project, so we'll call it as a GDrive project. And if you want to continue on this journey, so give a like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.